Welcome back to Music Rankings, Reviews, and More. And today we're back with another album review. We've actually done quite a bit in the past month or two, which is good. There'll definitely be more coming out, especially for June 2nd releases. There was a lot of popular albums to release on that date. And we look forward to reviewing more, such as the new Rival Sons album and the new Avenged Sevenfold album. Uh, no spoilers on those reviews, but those should definitely be interesting to view as well. This is the new Foo Fighters album, which is titled "But Here We Are." That we will be reviewing. It's their first record since the death of great drummer Taylor Hawkins, and Dave Grohl is actually back drumming on this album. Even though live, Josh Freese is actually the one performing for drums now. Um, but yeah, anyway, so this is the first record since that event happened, and we'd obviously, and like just like everybody else, we were interested to see how this was going to sound. It's obviously a traumatic experience. So basically, how this review will go is we'll give our strengths for the album, weaknesses for the album. We'll do a track breakdown, which are 10 tracks, and then we'll say our best, worst tracks on the album, like favorites, least favorites, essentially. Our overall thoughts, just kind of our summary, I guess, and then our final rating out of 10, and basically just like briefly talk about that.
Right.
Should be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I think we mostly have similar reviews, but we definitely have probably different things to add, I think, so that should be interesting. All right, so first off, we're starting with our strengths and weaknesses of the album. I'll give my strengths and weaknesses, then Christoph will, then Mariah, and basically everything else that we'll talk about will be that order as well. So for strengths, I thought it was a cohesive album. Even though the songs definitely in and of themselves were different and unique to the sound of the song. I thought the mixing on the record was pretty good. I thought it had a sweet spot of production. It wasn't underproduced or overproduced. It hit that sweet spot, which I liked. The drumming was really good. Of course, it's Dave Grohl back on drums. Was obviously interested to see how that sounds. And there was passionate vocals as well. I thought the hooks at times were really good. The lyrical content, is arguably the best part of this project, and that's not even like going into the instrumentals, which are also pretty cool. There's intriguing storylines, and subjects, obviously. And then it's strong throughout the whole project. It's not like there's a weak side to this. Like, it's not like side B is weaker. A lot of people are like talking about like on albums, the side B second half hold up to the first half. And I would say like they're pretty much equal for me because there's definitely some that I really liked on both sides, and then there was others that weren't as good, but they were still pretty good. Also, I thought the bass lines on this album were really prevalent in the mixing and also pretty strong. So that's what I wrote down for strengths. So there's quite a bit of those. Weaknesses, I only wrote down two. This isn't a huge one, I guess, but this was my biggest concern was the static white noise, which only occurred in the last two tracks. It only occurred for 15 seconds in The Teacher, and that was at the end. So it didn't ruin the song at all, but it was still kind of annoying to hear. And then it happened for like nearly 2 minutes straight in the last song, Rest. Why? I don't know. I feel like it could have done without that. The other weakness, I guess you could say, is sonically, it's nothing too shocking or different from what they do. Like, it's very like up the alleyway of like classic Foo Fighters. So it's not like they're trying to reinvent their sound, or I guess, but that's actually okay because it really does work for this record to kind of go back to the classic sound. It definitely makes sense. So that's not really a strong complaint. I mean, really my only complaint is the static white noise, which happened for two songs, which is kind of annoying, but yeah, that's my strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I pretty much agree for like the most part. I definitely like for strengths, yeah, it's just pretty good overall. I really like the instrumentals. Of course, the lyrics are very interesting, deep, with like meaning, loss, and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I didn't really have much complaints about it. Grew on me a bit the second time I heard it. I was gonna do a third listen, but I didn't quite get to it. But yeah, I just think it's overall just pretty good. And the only really complaint, like you said, there's the white noise that just kind of hurt my ears and was
Yeah,
unnecessary. I don't really know what that was all about, but yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
so for me, strengths, obviously there were a couple of similar strengths, obviously. But the hooks in most of the songs were fairly good. I was a fan of most of them. I feel like there was a lot of really heartfelt, genuine lyrics that were really great. Dave Grohl just carried this album basically. Like he did
Oh, for
such a good
Yeah,
sure.
job. You
true.
know, his vocals and his drumming. The instrumentals in general were pretty great. Great
Yeah,
themes. The songs were relatable. Like if you've lost somebody, these are easily relatable themes. Um,
Hmm.
it's cohesive and it had a great production. It's really a great return for them, especially with all the questions around the future of the band for the past year. A bit of a formulaic sound for them. It's not necessarily bad. It's kind of comforting, like you said, because you're going back to the classics. Like you want a reassuring the Foo Fighters are still here and they're still like doing what they normally do. But they did do some different things, like Violet Girl singing and the teacher being 10 minutes. So they did change things up a little bit.
For
Um,
sure.
Kind of the bad, like the negatives to this, which is not that many negatives. There's not that much bad on here, but formulaic sound, like I said, can be a bit of
yeah,
negative. Like some of the things, it's like, okay, we've heard this before, or some, not this specifically, but there's quite a few similar songs in their catalog. This isn't the music itself, but the album cover's pretty lackluster.
yeah,
Yeah, it's boring.
yeah.
Boring as all get out, really.
It's just
Yeah,
it's
but
white, you know.
yeah, but to be honest, like if you look back at their album covers, they're not known for like great, interesting album covers. Like that's not their thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, and then last two are songs are just a little too repetitive, and sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a variety between a few songs. But that's kind of to be expected because it's of a similar theme. So to be honest, there's not that much bad here. Just some small things that are a little annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I pretty much agree with that. Yeah, there's definitely some songs that sound similar for sure. I mean, there's obviously some really different sounding songs, but there's like sometimes like there'll be two songs that sound similar, and then there's another two songs that sound different from those two songs, but those two songs sound similar. If that makes
Right.
sense.
There's
So
two songs that are pretty similar to me on here, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is not all that different
yeah.
from this
yeah,
earlier one,
Um,
but it's okay.
Yeah. So track breakdown, there's 10 tracks. So yeah, we'll go in that same order that we just did for those. But starting
yeah,
off, we have track one, which is Rescued. So yeah, this was the first single off the album. All you would have to read is the track title to know what it's about. And also, some of the band's context over the past 2 years as well. It is this nice single ready feel while not exactly trying to be over the top. Um, because it kind of just does what they do best, right? Good, heavy, but also yet catchy hooks that could get radio play potentially. And I did hear it on the radio, so I think it accomplished that well. The song has a nice playfulness between the main guitar riff and Girl's thunderous drums, who drums throughout the whole project in replacement of Hawkins. It's a perfect introduction for everything to come on this project, a song that totally has a late 90s, 2000s feel to it as well. They come back to their
Mhm.
earlier sounds a lot on this record while also not ripping themselves off in a huge way either. So I thought that was important.
No, I agree on that.
All right, Christoph.
yeah. It was really good. I think I also heard this one on the radio before. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I thought the vocals were really strong and the drumming and guitar was really good. And this just kind of has like the classic Foo Fighters sound. Again, it's like not much different, but like I think it's like a good thing for them. They're still here, still making music. So, and then yeah, lyrics also interesting, like the theme throughout the album. And yeah, it's just quite interesting overall.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
for me, I really like them opening the album with a very Foo Fighters-esque track. Like this is classic Foo Fighters. This is,
Yeah.
something that this kind of song they do really well. This, it's classic Dave Grohl and Company, which I think is great to open. I like his vocals a lot and the guitar here especially. My dad said it sounds a little bit like he's gonna break into Best of You at any point in the song, and it is kind of similar,
Yeah.
but I'm again not complaining. Like it's not a bad thing at all, and it is different. This has basically been stuck in my head since it was released as the first single, and it was a great choice for the first single, I think, as well as the open track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think the nice thing about this album, without giving any spoilers away for like the overall summary, is the fact that they've been almost at this for nearly like what 30 years, and they haven't actually really like gotten a ton worse in terms of like being able to produce good instrumentals sonically, and also Grohl as a singer has not declined. I'm more than happy to say that like his voice does not sound any weaker than it does than like 30 years ago. So
No,
I think that's
True.
really important as well. You know, it's not like
agreed.
Grohl's ancient or anything, so I don't expect him to be declining a ton either. You know, you look at the record that came out a couple weeks ago, Dave Matthews Band's "Walk Around the Moon." He's 56, and his vocals sound just as strong, if not stronger, because his range has actually improved at 56. So yeah, it's not, and he's not super old either. So you know,
No, Grohl's 55.
It's not too surprising. But yeah, I just thought that was good for Foo Fighters. You know, um,
Agreed.
so coming in at the track number two spot, Under You. So this was the Foos decided to put the first two singles as well as the first two songs on this project, which is like interesting choice for sure. Doesn't happen super often. This one kind of stays in the same vein of like the single Ready Attack here, but you know, with a different guitar tone and riff, of course, to keep it interesting. This song hits even harder than the previous one, as it still talks about losing Hawkins and remembering him through things such as sharing songs and cigarettes with each other. And girls basically just saying like, that's how I'll remember you. Like these memories are just kind of intact. Like that's how you're like ingrained into my mind. Um, and yeah, he essentially writes this one as like a love letter to his friend and bandmate, saying like he's not over his death, which makes a ton of sense considering it's still very recent in the term of, you know, history. Um, and sonically speaking, I also found this to be another catchy tune that ended up being about equal in quality to the prior song, because the lyrics in this one are actually a bit better, but the other one I appreciated more instrumentally speaking. So yeah, it's basically equal to the first track for me, but both are great. So yeah,
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I like this one also about equally to the first track. Again, I just thought like the instrumentals are really good. It's just really good hooks and it's pretty catchy. And yeah, I really like the riff on this one too. And the lyrics, of course, very interesting and yeah, it just carries like the whole theme of the album and like that. Yeah, pretty good.
nice.
Yeah, so for this track, I think it's my favorite lyrically. It might be my favorite in general, but I love that it talks about what reminds you of Taylor and the days spent and the harsh reality that you don't remember a lot of the days as much as you wish you did, but you remember the important and the little things like the songs they did together and the cigarettes they shared, basically their bonding moments, and how that's the defining moments and what you look on fondly after they're not here anymore, which is really sweet. This has a fantastic chorus and riff. It reminds me a little bit of an older era while still sounding modern. I feel like it strikes that balance really, really well.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, I agree. Um, so moving on then, track number three, Hearing Voices. So it's worth noting that the song opens on a much different vibe than both the first two tracks. It opens up with some acoustic guitar and a super recognizable and easy to pick out of the mix type bass line. For that reason, I was actually more attracted to the verses than the choruses here. Despite the choruses also being pretty enjoyable as well. Again, the guitar tone here is trending towards a more melodic one, which we'll see on some further cuts on this project as well. So for being a deep cut, it's still very catchy and fun. Towards the end of the song, the energetic mix cuts out, and Grohl and the rest of the group transition back into an acoustic style for the remaining 20 seconds, making this song come full circle in a sense, kind of like that.
Yeah, this one was also really good, and I really like the acoustic intro and outro that just fits really well. I think that's I don't not a lot of bands do that where it's like starts slow and more acoustic, then it gets like more energetic, upbeat, and then it goes back. Like "Beautiful as You Are" by Journey, for example, does that, and it's really good.
For sure.
Because I feel like a lot of the times it's bands only do it like one way. They start acoustic and then they get upbeat, and that's kind of it. Or they go upbeat and then end it off acoustic. Not a lot of bands do like both, from what I've
Yeah.
heard. So
Or they start upbeat and they end upbeat, which we just call an all out
yeah,
rock
which a
song.
lot of songs do that. But like I like it's pretty cool songs that like do it on like both ends. You know, start slow, transition to the song like doesn't just open like energetic right away and then it slows down at the end. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So for hearing voices, well, the first thing that stood out to me is the line "No one cries like you." Just sounds really cool the way that they do it. I really like the way the vocal is on that. I just love the overall sound and vibe to it. instrumentals truly complement it pretty well. The other standout is I really like the lyrical quality here and the changing tempos adding to the great overall message, which is really relatable. Whether you're missing someone or whether they're gone in your life, it feels very from the heart and has a really fun outro as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a great song. So track number four, But Here We Are. So a song that also hits hard from its great combo of lyrical content and heavy hitting instrumentals, and also screaming-esque vocal styles from Dave. While it's not among the best tracks on the album for me, I do think that it's not among the worst either. So I guess that's pretty good. And it's kind of fitting that this is the title track. It almost feels like an announcement, kind of in some ways, but it just happens on track four and like not earlier in the album or towards the end, like most songs would be.
Um, yeah, I pretty much agree. This song grew on me quite a bit the second listen. Yeah, I thought this one was really good. Again, instrumentals are really good. I like the riff, and then the drumming again was really good, and the lyrics too, also really good. And I really like the vocals. I mean, it goes for most of the album. I just think overall it's really solid, and yeah, it's a really good song.
Yeah.
Nice.
Title track, guitar and bass are pretty great here. I love how Dave's it also grew on me. I love how Dave sounds in here. At first it didn't really stick with me, but then, subsequent listens it more stuck with me. Talking about how it's not an illusion and but here we are sounds like the triumphant return of a great band through tragedy, which is what the whole record I think attempts and succeeds in sounding like while dealing with and accepting the tragedy, uh, actually multiple tragedies really that have shaped the past year for Dave and the rest of the band, and I love that.
True.
Yeah, agreed. Track number five, The Glass. A song that is very much up the melodic and kind of sad lane that the band will sometimes choose to indulge themselves in when they're not doing, an all like thunderous rock track like a lot of their songs. This song seems to be about surrounding the idea that you might have expectations, and then it is almost the exact opposite of what you expect or hope. So unfortunate, but then again, like that's kind of a lot of the events that have happened in Grohl's life are basically just very unfortunate and sad. A more memorable song than the last one, I think it's a good sign of like other things to come on this project because we're halfway through the album yet, and so far there's nothing weak yet, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't have a ton to say about this one. I just thought this one was another one that was really good. Um, yeah, instrumentals and lyrics again are just very good. Um, yeah, I don't have much else to say. I have to listen to it more, but yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
the glass for me, halfway, which I think is kind of fun, glass half empty and all that. I don't think that had anything to do with it, but that's what I kind of thought of. Uh, and I don't know why to me, but this definitely has a bit of a Christian rock vibe to me. Like there are a couple bands that this could kind of sound like at home in their catalog. It's not a knock on it, as it's well done with great lyrics that hit hard. It's really cool. I like the slowed down tempo of this. I feel like uh, it's really reflective and that works well on it. Uh, finally, I'm a sucker for a good analogy. I speak in them often, and I really appreciated the way that they spun this analogy into a great reflection on loss.
Yeah, okay. Moving on. Track number six, Nothing at All. So another song here where the bass line stands out in the track's mix. It complements the guitar riff throughout verse one really well. As the chorus hits, Grohl and the band go for an all-out but brief but yet passionate chorus. The go in then kind of go out guitar, so it's just kind of like going in, going out of the mix type of thing. That's there on verse one is also there on verse two, and it's to be noted that it kind of just adds like this nice flavor to the song that is definitely necessary, or else it wouldn't be as good. It'd probably be more boring. To me, this song was among the most passion-filled songs on the record, so uh, there's that.
Yeah, this one is also just pretty good. I like the like scream type vocals, not really screaming, but you know. Um, lyrics also again just very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I also don't have as much to say about this one. This is one of the ones that kind of sounds a little bit like another one that's coming later to me. But I do love the drumming again and Dave Storm vocals on this. Another real standout to me is the bass line on this track. Like that's what kind of stood out to me throughout the whole thing is this sounds really good. Lyrically it's really sweet, but it's just not quite as memorable as the others to me. Like it's not as strong, but still solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could agree there. All right. Track number seven, Show Me How. So Dave invites his daughter Violet to do a duet on this song, and the pairing is done very well on the track because of the mixing, I thought, but also like you can just tell their voices work well together here, outside the mixing also being great. So that's cool. The verses in this song remind me a little bit of one of the later verses in Blondie's Heart of Glass with the way they pair up the vocals. That was like one of my first thoughts. I was like, where have I heard this before? And then I was like, oh yeah, in that one song. Um, so yeah, outside of the closer, this is the most calm song on the record. The instrumentals leading up to the chorus on this track are very haunting and mysterious, which is definitely a deliberate, creative choice. A bunch of people when this single was released didn't give it a chance at all because it was described as being a mellow duet with, his daughter Violet, which did not attract listeners. Big surprise to that idea. But it's much better received weeks later in the context of the album and like just the general flow of the album. So yeah,
Yeah, I didn't love this one, but I thought it was still pretty good overall. And it's just interesting, like, like really good mixing and like do it with his daughter. That's a pretty cool thing to do. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially, because they both lost someone really important to them and, Dave Grohl's mom and her grandmother. So I think that's really
right.
sweet that they come together for this. I love that it's a duet with his daughter, especially because they both lost a woman they loved, like I said, but their voices flow well and effortlessly. And it also
Yeah,
adds an
it's almost as if they're related.
yeah, yeah, funny thing. Uh it'd be a little weird if it didn't. But it really adds an interesting
Yeah.
element that's different from the Foo Fighters usual. It feels like she was really meant to sing on it, and the sound mix is amazing. Overall, it's a very pleasant listen that's sweet and relaxing, but it's not a favorite right now. I still really enjoy it.
So moving on to track number eight, Beyond Me. The only song on this album actually to open up with some piano here. It quickly gets into the thunderous rock they're known for, but it takes a little second to get there compared to the other tracks. It's kind of just open up with, fire and thunder here. So in the background of the mix here, the guitar keeps on chugging and doing its thing, but the slower moments of this track are truly what make it great as well, which is probably why it was included on the project. The hook here is honestly one of the weakest hooks on any of the songs, really. It's really nothing special, but it kind of doesn't need to be for the song to work. So yeah, this as spoiler is not in my favorites because like the hook is super weak. It's really not special, but it's still a pretty good song overall.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
again, this wasn't one that I loved, but I thought it was still pretty good. I like the piano and it had a good build up. I did find it a tiny bit boring, but it's not bad at all. And again, lyrics are interesting. It had a nice short guitar solo that I liked. That's about it for that one.
Nice.
Yeah, so this song, it's not very memorable to me yet. Like a lot of the ones I can remember and I could sing a little bit. This one's not that memorable to me. There's not too much of a hook, kind of like you said, Cyrus. Like it's not it's not the same as some of the other ones, but it's okay. Uh, the lyrics, everything we love must grow old, or so I'm told. You must release what you hold dear. I really enjoyed that, and that really hit hard for me. And it's everyone getting older and losing those I love eventually is a difficult realization for me.
Yeah,
To kind of grapple with and to think about because it hurts. It hurts that not everything you're not going to have the same people on in life as you do right now. And granted, you get more people in your life, but still, you love those people. And I lost a close family member in the last year. I wasn't prepared to say bye to. So that I really enjoyed that lyric. It's a great song. I just wish there was more to it. There needed to be more vocals. There needed to be a better hook. It needed to probably be a little different. You know, it's it just needed a little more, but it's still a solid track.
yeah.
For sure. Um, All right, track number 9. This should be fun. The Teacher. So this is, yes, spoiler alert, big surprise. The song I wrote the most for. I don't think that's that surprising, actually. Um, so this was the track that was actually the fourth single. I don't really know why it's a single because it's literally 10 minutes. But anyway, it's truly like the magnum opus of this record. Like it's just this awesome song and it's like huge. But it's really a lot of pieces of just great ideas that they've done in their past and also throughout this new project together on this like 1 10 minute epic song. It's not only interesting like lyrically, but equally as awesome instrumentally. Which is nice. A song that is constantly morphing from one sound to the next. There's so much to like dive into here, from the crunching riffs, haunting background vocals, post-punk driven guitar lines, and melodic instrumentally like breakdown that happens in like the second half. That really just sounds beautiful. It's a song that has been the most polarizing and probably talked about on this record, and for good reason. The song is about lost once more, but this time instead it's about uh, girl's mother and not Hopkins. 'Cause I feel like more of them are about Hawkins, but it's truly a record about both of them for sure. Um, Further proving that Dave is one of the most unfortunate people in music currently,
Okay.
um, and possibly of all time, but also showing how Lost results in their best record in over a decade. It's a great record if you haven't figured it out by now, but one we all kind of wish, including the fans, of course, that the band never had to make because, making a record because of the circumstances of the events that happened are just really not fun at all for anybody. So it's probably in Dave's top 5 or even top 3 best written songs from a songwriting standpoint, even if it's not among the favorites. I think objectively, it's one of the best like songs from a songwriting standpoint he's ever done. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, this was really good. This was another one that grew on me more the second listen. It's very long. It's very surprising they actually released it as like a single because usually, not usually, almost always, like when you have really long songs like this, they're not singles. They're like extreme deep cuts usually. And a lot of those can be great, but like very unique of them to like just make a 10-minute song release to just single, just like here, take it. So I'm just like, I'll discover like deep in the album, whatever. But like, so that's pretty cool. Again, just really unique. It's really good riff throughout. The different like segments, it's just very unique overall, and just the lyrics are also really good. And only bad part is like the 15 seconds like white noise part at the end that was just unnecessary. It it's too
I mean,
loud.
it definitely
I
doesn't
don't
even
know.
come close to ruining the song because it's very,
Yeah,
very
it's
brief.
just
It's
a
super
slight
brief
thing. It's just like you didn't really need to put that in there. You could have just cut the song 15 minutes shorter. 15 seconds, sorry.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, but
but
overall,
then it
just
wouldn't
really
be
good.
10 minutes though. So
True.
it
Negative
no.
5 minute song. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, overall, it's still a really good song.
Yeah. It that kind of similar thoughts to you guys. It's really such a sweet song for his mom. Parents are such a teacher to you, and they
Yeah.
really shape who you are, and they're such an integral part of you. Uh, you know, in every aspect, it's inevitable. And because of that, I think knowing the inspiration behind the songs, the lyrics are pretty heart wrenching. Heart wrenching. They're catchy. They're sweet. But the little bit of a downside is there's not enough to them. To me, there's not enough of them. It's a little repetitive. Like I feel like there could have been some more lyrics there, but overall, it's an amazing track with creativity and it's a beautiful statement. So I don't really care much. That bothered me a little bit on the first listen, but as I've gone through listens, I don't think about it all that much anymore. Really, the beauty of the track makes up for it, and I love listening to it more and more each time. Really, I just love long, well done songs, and they did deliver on this. The white noise, as you guys talked about, was a strange way to end it. Although it's almost like
It's
it's
okay.
fading
It
away.
gets worse. It gets worse. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's almost like it's fading away, which is a cool choice.
Yeah.
But it's just not the most pleasant sonically. But I'm not mad at the choice to end it. It's just it is what it is. It's not a big problem. It's just an odd decision.
Yeah. It's true.
Makes sense. We're finally here. Last track, track number 10, wrapping up our track breakdown, and then we'll get into best tracks, worst tracks, overall thoughts and rating. So track number 10 is called Rest. So this song starts off being both reflective of the past and being the most sad song on the album, I think, because especially as the closer, it feels like the end of just a truly sad narrative and story. I appreciate the first half of this song from all sides, but the second half I honestly didn't care for too much. I think there's meaning to it, and it's no doubt passionate for sure, but I really did not like the white noise that somehow ended up playing for like 2+ minutes or more straight. So yeah, I know it was likely a creative choice to create a larger impact on listeners, but I felt it was a bit unnecessary, and I could personally hear a version of the song with the same ending, but removing the static white noise, but keeping all the other instrumentals kind of just exactly the same as they were. And I think it
Yep.
would sound a lot
Yeah.
better. I think it's objectively a good closer because it wraps up this reflective narrative of an album perfectly, but the static white noise prevents me from further enjoyment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like this is a case of like a song that's like a slight thing, like the white noise is like kind of ruins it. Of course, it's not. It's still a good song overall, and it's not that bad, the white noise. But like if it's a feel, it's like a case of like, oh, you just remove this and boom, it's like a lot better. Like kind of unrelated, but like some like 21 Pilots songs, like Aircatcher had like some parts like auto-tune. There's someone made like a fan made edit. It's like, oh, a non auto-tune edit, and it's like, oh well, this is quite a bit better. And it's kind of like someone just like edited, removed the white noise, boom, it's quite a bit better. So yeah, I mean overall, it's not bad. This like definitely like a sad feeling song, of course, sad lyrics again, has like, the acoustic quiet sort of feel, and then like sort of more instrumentals kick in, like a build up, but then the white noise also, not a fan of that, but it's still not
Yeah,
bad.
no. Nice.
Yeah. So kind of the same on this along the same lines. This is really a fitting ending for this album as it's ending it or putting it to rest,
Yeah.
as well as putting those they love to rest. So it's really a great pick out of the 10 to close this out. Like of all the 10, this is the only option I think to close this out. Because this is the conclusion. And
Right.
there's really a sweet message here, but my issues with it, well, I have a couple of issues. It is far too muted. It's really quiet, and it's just
Yeah.
there's not enough oomph behind it, and it just feels strange. It just feels like it wasn't done quite yet. It just wasn't done, and it's repetitive, which I get it because it's almost like when you're talking over somebody like that. It does feel a little bit reflective and introspective, like you're looking in at them, putting their loved ones to rest, but it just doesn't work quite in a song to me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
fair. Yeah.
like Beyond Me, it just needed a little bit more all around. Uh, I feel like it could have been done better in places, but I do enjoy it. And of course, Elephant in the Room that everyone's talked about. The ending is so weird. It
Yeah.
does not feel like it belongs, and I'm really not a fan of that. It's not like awful, like I'm like ew, turn it off. But it's just it doesn't. It just could have been done better. It just didn't need it. Uh, it's not a bad song by any means. I just had mixed feelings and a bit of a sense of disappointment with this because it feels like this song had more untapped potential.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I say like this before one thing before we get into our
Yeah.
final thoughts? Okay, here's the thing. There's gonna be some stupid fucking Foo Fighters stan or fan or whatever you want to call them in the comments, basically roasting us because I've seen so many people say that Rest is the best song. That's
The
fine if
best
you think
song?
that,
Oh
but
wow. I have not
okay,
seen
here's
that
the
take,
thing
but
though.
mhm.
People are saying that because I here's the thing. Don't be such a huge fan of any one band to the fact where you think every fucking thing they put out is great. Here's how I review albums. I
Oh yeah.
review albums both from the standpoint of being a big fan of it or just any type of fan really, a fan of the band or not. I go in with an open mind, expecting
Yeah.
nothing. But I also go in from a critic standpoint. Like if there's something bad, I'm gonna point it out. Okay, white noise does not sound good in almost any case. I mean, sometimes it's okay, but like, it just didn't need to be done.
Yeah,
So don't try to justify this by saying Rust is so amazing. Like, that's fine if you think that, but like, there's got to be a worse track. Okay, this was a great album, so something has to be the worst song. So
Some has
don't
to
be
be
like,
the
oh, there's no worst song because
true.
all of them are great. No, even on my favorite album, there still has to be a worse song, right? Like, there's
Yeah,
logically, there's gonna be a song that's worse, even if it's
yeah.
still a fucking banger. It's still got to be the worst.
Yeah,
Is my
something has to
point.
be honest. That's the way it works.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we'll just get to our conclusion, which basically is like four different things. It's like our overall thoughts, best tracks, worst tracks, and then our final rating. So you can just do those all in like one thing. So, I mean, same order. I'll go first, then
yeah,
Christoph, then Ryan. So, my overall thoughts on this. So, the Foo Fighters wrap up a cohesive album and argue their best in well over a decade by taking the pain and suffering and molding that into great, well thought out music. Most of what I look for in a great record was here, and that's to be noted. The songs are all different and can easily be told apart from one another, but are still crafted in a way in which they sound cohesive from track to track. It's an album that knows what it wants to do and hits the benchmarks for both its goals and what the fans know the band is capable of putting out. While it does have some things it could do without, this album, the album's things it does do well, make you forget about really anything you didn't want included like
Oh
white
yeah.
noise.
true.
So yeah, best tracks here. So I wrote down six, and then worst tracks I wrote down one. So that's like seven tracks that were included. Three songs I didn't mention. So the three songs I didn't mention, which won't get mentioned, are just like they're still good songs, but they're not among the best or the worst. Um, so yeah, my number six, I put down was "Rescued," which was the first single, but that it doesn't matter as much. I just thought it was a pretty damn good song, so I wrote it down in for my best tracks. But my top five, so at five, I put down "The Glass." I thought that was a pretty groovy track with a nice bass line. Four, "Nothing at All." I thought that was really passionate. Number three, I put "Hearing Voices." I just really liked how mysterious it sounded and then how groovy the guitar and bass lines were. Really enjoyed that. Number two, I'm a sucker for melodic shit, so Show Me How. I know you guys didn't like it as much as me, but I thought
I
the
love the
duet, like
song.
it's because it's not traditional Foo Fighters, like literally my top two is literally because it's not a typical Foo Fighters song, and that's why these are my top two. And with that being said, you kind of guessed it. Number one, I think for most people, this is most people's number one, The Teacher. I mean, this song is literally like their Nights of Shame. I mean, it's their Bohemian Rhapsody, whatever you want to call it. It's just that good. I wouldn't say it's as good as like Nights of Shame or Bohemian Rhapsody, but I'm saying like it's very similar in terms of what it's trying to do and accomplish here. That's the best song on the record for me, but I really think anything in that top 5 to 6 range is like all equally pretty good for the most part. And then worst tracks, Rest. I know, I'm sorry. Everybody thinks this is like the best song that wasn't a single, best deep cut. No, there's even better deep cuts like Hearing Voices, which was not a single, but was as good as most of the singles, if not better. So
It
I
should
just
have been
really
there.
think that,
Yeah,
yeah, like I just really think that Rest is not as good as most people think it is. I think it's still a good song overall, but the white noise did not need to be included. So for final rating, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I thought this was a great project. If the white noise wasn't here, I'd probably give it like that extra half point. I'd probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. Couldn't be really any higher for me because there's still some things I would have wanted. And also like, yeah, just my overall enjoyment is really what I'm rating this out of, and also lyrics, of course. Like the lyrics didn't like I still enjoyed it at about the level of an 8 out of 10 album, but the lyrics definitely help its case to be higher than like say a 7 or a 7.5 or a 6. I don't know.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, the combination of lyrics and really just like great instrumentation, vocals and drumming and like bass lines, of course, everything really just makes this a nice, steady, great 8 out of 10 for me. So that's my final rating for this album.
Yeah, an 8 out of 10 is pretty great. Like that
yeah,
means it was a really good album. Like there's that's worth it. Like listen to some you love something that's an 8 out of 10. It's not a 9 or a 10, but not many albums are. So
oh for sure. So yeah, I just thought it was really good. Like Cyrus was saying, the lyrics just are really good, and for me, lyrics they don't make or break an album. But this definitely does help a bit and make it a bit more like kind of different example, but like the Ed Sheeran example. Ed Sheeran album that we reviewed recently, obviously it's way different. But like in the cases of that album, the lyrics were what made it like. If it wasn't for the lyrics in the album, I would have liked it less for sure. So like obviously this is much
For
better,
sure.
no duh. But like it still does elevate it. Lyrics aren't like my favorite thing overall, but like it is still quite important. So and yeah, and just the instrumentals were just really good, and I really like the the lyrical themes in the albums, and it kind of has like the classic sound, and it mostly sticks to that. But I think it's a good thing because sometimes, in some cases, like bands, they can try to innovate, and it just ends up not working. But they also didn't.
Avenged Sevenfold.
True, but
Sorry, I had to say that because that
yeah,
record also got released on the same day, and it's like basically the opposite of the Foo Fighters album, both in score and also
yeah.
in what they're trying to accomplish, really. So
Yeah, but then I am saying that, but like they are creative and unique on this. Like the teacher, their longest song ever, like 10 minutes. That's definitely unique. So it's not like it's just their normal classic sound. So yeah, it's just very enjoyable overall. Like I like how it sometimes switches up to like upbeat, energetic, and it can also be like more mellow and acoustic sounding. I just love variety in general. So like when albums have like the upbeat and the slower and mixing and stuff like that's gonna make a good album for me. So yeah, really good. And oh yeah, favorites. These favorites. Um, favorites. So rescued. The single, I thought that one was really good. Probably my favorite. Also, Under You, about equal for that. And then The Teacher, of course, also really good. And I also really like But Here We Are. And then, of course, there are quite a few other really good ones that could switch or something. But those are my favorites for now. And then least favorite, yeah, Rest. It was fine. It wasn't bad. But just combined with like a little bit too quiet, not a ton going on, and the white noise just dragged it down a bit. Yeah. And I
well,
gave it a
especially with all the other like 9 prior cuts on this album, I just think it
yeah.
has to be the
Yeah. It's
weakest for
not
me.
bad, but every track
It's
is the worst
not,
album.
but
So
every other
it is what
track
it
is
is.
pretty
So
strong. So yeah.
yeah, and I gave this album a 7 out of 10, so it's a pretty good score for me. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. So uh I think Foo Fighters is fantastic. I mean, this I
Yeah,
think this is the best lyrical Foo Fighters album. Granted, I think it's
It
easy to
is.
write when things happen to you and when
yeah,
there's inspiration for this, but even the worst songs still impressed me lyrically. Like even the ones that I had at the bottom, like it was just top to bottom lyrically impressive, and that's not the most important thing to me. The most important is overall
yeah,
sound, how it sticks with me, resonates with me, but lyrics are a huge part of that, and I love when there are great lyrics that make me think, that I can relate to, that are just strong, or make me go, oh, that is a great lyric right there. And this did it several times. It didn't feel like a retread of sad themes or of loss. Like it felt fresh. It didn't feel like, oh, okay, I've heard this a million times in songs, these exact words. Like there wasn't. I did feel like there was a lot of cliches, which would have been fine because how much can you say about grief? But I
yeah,
uh, I really appreciated that. Um, so I feel like they just struck a balance with what they wanted to do. They had variety. They stuck to their classics while incorporating some new stuff. They experimented. They did a lot of different things, so I feel like they really struck a good balance in a lot of ways. It wasn't too melodramatic. It didn't feel empty. It didn't feel like, okay, it didn't leave you in doubt that it was an album of grief. It had a good theme. You weren't unclear or lost as to what the album was about. It was pretty clear without like we're explicitly stating everything, and you know we're treating you like you don't know what's going on. It's an album I think a lot of people can listen to and relate to. So I overall thought it was fantastic. Vocals, drumming, instrumentals, they really showed that they still got it, and even in spite of all the bad things happen, they can come out on the other side with a great album for them, but also a fitting tribute to those that they've lost. So overall, well done, guys. There's it's not perfect. There's definite flaws in there, but overall, pretty impressive, especially because it didn't feel like they were putting this together for a long time. The album announcement kind of came out of nowhere to me.
It really did. It wasn't
Yeah.
like they like a lot of bands give you like 3 or 4 months in advance, I feel like, for like waiting, sometimes even more. And they gave us like what, like a month and a half.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
So
crazy.
So it made me a little nervous, but I think they delivered how I wanted them to. So I really enjoyed that, like I said, but here we are. It just sounds like the triumphant return through tragedy, and that's successful, and it's beautiful. So favorites, this is kind of in an order, kind of not. It could, change up a lot. But currently, Under You, I just, loved it lyrically, and it's a fantastic song. The Teacher, they really pushed themselves on it. Rescued, fantastic single. Hearing Voices in the Glass, just a really beautiful way of talking about grief, and just fantastic songs that are I will be always happy to listen to. Least favorites, sorry to retread a little bit here, but Surprise Surprise Rest, I think everyone kind of saw
yeah,
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
It's
definitely the worst compared to anything else. So just
right, it's
yeah.
honestly with them, but it is the worst. Like
Yeah.
there isn't really much of a debate. Even though I enjoy listening to it, it's not an awful track, like I said.
Actually, there's actually quite a lot of debate. Literally, just look at anyone's opinions on the new Foo Fighters album on Twitter, and most people actually put it in their top half of songs. A lot of people put it
Wow,
at one or
interesting.
two. So I don't understand why, because it's not classic Foo Fighters. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
the top two songs that I put definitely are not classic Foo Fighters either, but they sound a whole hell lot better than Rest, in my opinion. And sound matters more than lyrics to me. And
I
those two
agree.
songs had great lyrics as well. Did Rest, so they all had great lyrics, but they sounded a lot better. One was really melodic, one was like 10 fucking minutes. So like I'm gonna take those tracks over the one that has the white static noise. That's just me, but like
Right. It's just
yeah,
I think it's the
True.
overall theme and message is beautiful, and people overlook it, and but it is last. If I'm really being nitpicky, I could add Beyond Me or maybe Nothing at All, because those ones aren't as memorable to me. But
yeah.
that's just nitpicking. They're solid tracks.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
Beyond
want
Me's
them in the least
probably my
favorite
second
category.
least, but like I wouldn't put it in a least favorite worst tracks list because it's not that bad to be called a worst track.
No, that's
Like
that's not really fair.
Yeah.
They're just
especially with worst tracks, I usually try and determine like what is the worst track on this album, and if anything else is kind of at that level, I also write it down. But nothing else was at the level of Rest, so I just
Yeah.
put that
Yeah, it's
kind
fair.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. Um. So overall rating, it's funny because I had a bit of an overall rating this morning, and then as I listened again, I feel like got the overall feel for it. So
yeah,
overall rating 8 out of 10. It really grew on me more and more with subsequent listens. Really worth the time. Fantastic album, triumphant comeback. Whatever you want to call it. 8 out of 10 is pretty good, and this is fantastic. Even in spite of some flaws, it's a fantastic album
yeah.
and
Oh
worth,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly like really, really, really regretting putting the new Metallica album as an 8 out of 10 because that's basically like me saying, "Oh yeah, Metallica's new album and Foo Fighters' new album are equal." When in fact, this new album is way better than the new Metallica album. I feel like I should have rated it honestly lower than an 8.
Mm.
That feels like way too fucking high, especially because it's not even among their best albums.
I mean, you can always
Like it's
change your
not in their top
score,
five.
so I mean, obviously not in the
Yeah,
video,
I
but
can, not in the video.
I
That's not
know,
what I
I
meant.
know.
For
But
me now, it's probably
for
like a
end of the
six and a
year,
half. Like it's still
yeah.
enjoyable, but like there's some songs lyrically that are just pure cringe, and then also like the fact that it's not memorable. It's just really not memorable.
Yeah,
At
part of
least the Foo Fighters album has some really memorable songs, and the ones that aren't at least are enjoyable. Whereas like
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel
part of
like
it
I
yeah,
should
I
have
really
rated that
like it.
lower. I'm
like this
like
album, like not only is it just shorter and just more interesting, like you
I
can
mean,
just
it's like 50 minutes. It's like
yeah,
closer to 50, which is like
you
the
can
nice sweet
re-listen to
spot.
it
It's
more
like
and not feel
it's
exhausted.
not too long, but
So,
not too short. It's like the nice sweet spot.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's true. This is really the perfect amount where you feel like you got enough Foo Fighters and you really got a cohesive story, but it wasn't too
right.
much and it wasn't too little. This is just a really good
Yeah.
sweet spot for an album length, especially because it felt like they needed to do what they needed to do. You have it, you enjoy it, and
Right.
then you got your life back. Like, it's
True.
Yeah.
solid.
So anyway, that was our review, all three of us, of the new Foo Fighters record. Overall, very positive review, 8, 8, and a 7. So we all kind of collectively, mostly just agree there on our review and just really like how good the album truly was. Um, yeah, we'll probably do more reviews, but it probably won't be us three again because, there's different familiarities with Rival Sons, which will probably just be me and Christoph, and then Avenged Sevenfold, which maybe Nick will want to do. I think he said he heard the record. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll
He said
see.
it was pretty
Yeah.
bad, but like, yeah, I don't know. I agree with him though. That record
Yeah,
sucked.
I'm gonna listen to the Rival Sons one tonight, probably.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's
I'll check it
even
out.
better than the Foo Fighters record, which was great.
So
So
I'm excited about it. I'm gonna listen to it probably twice through because that's how I get a good feeling for if what my true
Hmm.
feelings are about an album. I think that's important to not listen to something just once.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Discount
yeah,
it.
so that was our anyway, that was just the review of the album. Tell us what you thought of this album. What were your favorite, least favorite tracks? What would you give it out of 10? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was mediocre? I mean, really anything. Yeah. And also you can give your thoughts on like the other records that came out on June 2nd, because there's definitely a lot of them and I'm interested to hear, you know, everyone's thoughts on those. So yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, thanks for watching. This was fantastic, and I'm really glad I got to review this with you guys. I had a really good time.
So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching and peace out.